Hello and welcome to the second part of creating custom Joomla components. In the previous tutorial we went through how to make the actual folder structure and all the file system, all of the XML configuration files, and we installed it, and we talked a little bit about the different views and the layouts. Basically a very general overview of how to create an initial Joomla component. Now there's a few things which we didn't miss out as such, or I didn't miss out, is the fact that I need to keep it very, very basic and very, very general. So what we're going to do is we're going to go first of all and do a little bit of a clean-up and explain these things first of all, about why we need to change them and how we go ahead changing them, and what the differences are, or once we've done them. Okay, so we had our component already previously installed, and that was all working fine. Okay, so what I want to go over now is, so I'm logged into the actual back end of this Joomla installation, and what I want to talk about first of all is the component name. Okay, up in the component menu item, we see here it's just basically lowercase then hello-world. Now I don't really like this, and it's not really very nice, because we want to have it, you know, in nice capital letters and done properly and displayed how we want it to display. Now this, how this works is basically the actual content or the text is loaded from the language file which we created. Okay, so if we come over to the actual workings of it once again, now within inside of the admin folder which we made, and under the language and then under the English folder, we made this en-gb.com_helloworld.sys.ini file. Now in here we made this com_hello-world equals then hello world. Now something which I forgot to do was actually to modify the XML document here. Now what happens is, within inside of the administration tag, we have this menu tag, alright, and what we had previously was just hello world in here. Now that's all well and good, but when the installer loads this, what it does is it loads the file, and it knows, right, I'm making a component, and this is of type extension, okay, or it's an extension of type component, should we say. Now this takes all of this information and then stores it into the extensions table in the database, right, and it takes this name and stores that as one of the parameters. But what it actually does is it takes this menu part here and it uses that as the main name. So what it will do is it will stick it all down to lowercase, then it will remove any spaces, and it will replace the spaces with a dash. Well, this is not particularly what we want. Okay, we want to be able to have a way of telling the Joomla framework which text to load. Alright, so the way this is done is we change this here to basically coincide with this here. Alright, now we'll talk about how the language files get loaded a little bit later, but for the time being I would just much prefer you trust me on this. So anything to do with the actual the back end part of your components as such here and stuff like that, and here, well actually in this case it's nothing to do with the language file, but just for this here, this is all to do with this sys.ini file which gets loaded. Okay, so what we need to do is, we already have our declaration within inside of our sys.ini file to say what the actual name or the title and the heading of the component should be. So what we need to do is we need to come into our hello world.xml file, which we have open already, and we change this to then just all lowercase, and we change it to com_hello world. This will then reference this here and use the value here as the name instead. So the entry which will be stored in the database will be this. Okay, but it will actually using another script of Joomla framework, it will then translate that into this. Okay, so okay, I don't want to move too far forward. Let's just keep at this for the time being. So we're going to change this first of all to com_hello world. Okay, on this note as well, when you do install the component, this is a one-time thing. Okay, so once you have installed it, the entry will be placed in the database, and it will read from the database for this one entry. Okay, so there's no point editing the configuration file once it's installed, because it's already been placed in the database, and it potentially won't read this configuration file any further. Okay, it just used this XML file for the installation steps. Okay, so once we've changed this, we can then copy this and also come up to here to name, and we're just going to change this up here as well. So it's going to use the same type of thing to provide the name as well. It's going to load the language file and it's going to place it in there. Okay, so now once we've done that, that's fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to waste a little bit of time deinstalling and reinstalling to show you the differences between it. Okay, just to prove my theory, what I've also done is I've also got all of the source files for the Joomla available for us. And when we come underneath the administration, I'm going to talk about this folder structure a little bit later. Okay, but for the time being, we're just going to go through and find them. Okay, so under administrator, yeah, I was wrong actually earlier. Okay, and components, and then we find com_hello world. So this is the from the folder structure which we had, the admin part. This is all of the files, okay, and folders which got copied into this folder. So the Joomla installer actually made this folder, okay, and then copied all of this text, all of these files into here, and then finally copied the helloworld.xml file into there as well for safe keeping. Okay, so the thing which we're looking at next is just to show you where the helloworld.xml file is stored. So as we can see here, the live version still has hello world and also then the exclamation mark, and down here as well. So if we just change this, I'm showing you that nothing will happen. Okay, so we can change this to com_hello world. Okay, let's just budge this out of the way, and it's already installed. Okay, come here, and as we can see, it still says hello-world. Alright, so it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. So we actually just need to deinstall it to reinstall it again. So let's now check to make certain that we got the configuration file correct, which is this one. This is the local copy. So we now have com_hello world here, and then also com_hello world here. Okay, so let's come over here and go to extensions, extension manager, manage, and then I've already filtered for the hello world, and then select hello world and then uninstall. Okay, now we can come to our folder structure, and we can just delete this zip file. Oh, that's the wrong one. Let's get it back again. Sorry about that, I was just testing another one. Okay, so that's where it is. Okay, so we just delete this one and then do that there. Okay, and then come to install, and we're going to browse. We've got the right one. Upload and install. Okay, it was all fine. Now we come to here and we can see hello world. Now if we come to manage once again, now we can see hello world is displayed here. Might sound a little bit silly, but now we've got hello world displayed here. We come now over to the actual FTP, or the actual the remote copy of it, and we come to the actual language file. Now, under the components, let's skip forward a little bit. Under the components, we see language here still. Okay, now these language files are here. Now, if we change this just to show you, so we say hello world underscore com underscore hello world equals hello world dash space 1, and we save it and we refresh this. Okay, we see that nothing changes here. Okay, and also nothing changes. Whoops, move that out of the way. Nothing changes here either, although this is the place that we said that it would read from. Well, at the moment we're reading from the language file that's underneath the com underscore hello world under the administration, the components element of it. Well, that's not actually what's getting loaded. The thing that's getting loaded is under administration, the language. Okay, then here, then when we go down, we can see com underscore hello world dot sys dot ini, and this is actually what's getting loaded. Let's change this to 10 just for a little bit of clarity, and then let's just refresh the page. Okay, and you can see here it's now changed the name of the component itself. Now that's actually everywhere. So if we come to top where we had our menu item, now at the moment it's saying does not exist because we deinstalled it. Okay, and we come back again and we then just press select, and then come farewell as well, save and close. Okay, now we see hello world 10 is also here. So that's basically, it's showing you where this is reading the information from. It's saying it's of component type hello world 10, and it's the farewell page. Okay, we're going to explain this a little bit later. Okay, but another thing which to take note of is now we have under components we have hello world 10, so we know that this one navigation bar is reading off of the sys.ini language file underneath the administration folder. Okay, and we know that this part here is also reading the same thing underneath the administration language English, and then this component, and then the com underscore hello world language text. Now if we come under menu items, when we decide to choose what menu item type this one page is, at the moment it's of type farewell page. Now let's just click select. Now previously, if you didn't notice, we had the hello world box was all the way down the end, or it was around here, and it was all lowercase and with no spaces, and it just said hello world. Now because we changed this sys.ini language file, it now loads it with a nice little title. Okay, but this is actually just to do with this one menu menu element of the, where's NetBeans? Here. Okay, so it's actually everything to do with this bit here. Okay, that's what it had to do with. The menu element here is one thing, but this is then another thing what it does. But both of these are pointing to two different things. So how about we do this? Yeah, we're going to have to just going to shuttle these down. Okay, because I don't want to be using the wrong thing. This is really an important part to understand how the configuration file works and how Joomla reads it and which pieces of information it does actually read. So what we're going to do in our local copy, okay, of this, as in the component which we made so this is the non-installed copy. Come to our language file, come to the sys one, okay, and we're going to make two different ones. Okay, we're going to make name, all right, and hello world, and we're going to put name after it. Okay, now with inside of here we're going to say this is hello world name instead, and we're going to leave this one at hello world. Okay, so this is how we have it at the moment. So what we'll do is we'll come back to Joomla, and we're going to deinstall the component once again. Okay, and uninstall this. That's now gone. Let's come back over to our folder and let's delete the zip file which we had, and then do that. Come to install, come here, press open, upload. Okay, now we see we've got com-hello world, alright, but where have we got, let's see what difference is actually made now. Okay, that one doesn't exist, that one's fine at the moment. Okay, error loading com_hello world. Okay, so this is obviously okay, as you can see here, well, this is a good thing, all right. This is kind of what we wanted, right? So we can see that this part here is actually reading off of. Let's come to here. This part here was reading off of the name part of it, okay. But because what's happened is because the name here, which we renamed it to hello world name, has a different name to the actual component itself, right? If you can imagine, when we put the name in, what Joomla actually does is it actually makes a folder saying then potentially hello world name. It removes all spaces and puts it all together. So it's actually looking for a component with this name. Now that's not correct, because if we actually come to here once again and have a look, and we'll come to source, Joomla 2.5, administration, components, and now let's just re-download and see which components we got. Okay, as you can see here, it actually installed com_hello world _name. Okay, weird, huh? So now we have 2 installed. All right, so it kind of messes things up. We've got our hello world.xml file here, so it moved everything, but it's kind of a bit confused now. It's like, wait a minute, the component's called hello world, but then you've put hello world _name here. So this is not really what we want, but we got a successful installation of our component. So let's go back, and this is all confused here, and it's probably going to get confused with deinstalling. No, it was fine with deinstalling. Okay, so now we know that this isn't actually something which we want to do. Okay, so the name up here needs to coincide with the name of the component. Therefore, anything that we type in here needs to be the exact name representation of the component as well. Okay, so the name one is really important that we name it exactly the same. It can have spaces in it, but we know that it will take that name and then it will well, let's just do it again, shall we? Just to double check all of these things. Okay, so that's like this, and let's remove this com_hello world, and let's now place name in here. Alright, and just to see the different name that it's actually going to install. Alright, now I'm a personal fan of just testing all the time to see what it is actually happens. The other solution is to read the code, but you can tend to be ending up being sent everywhere all over a whole bunch of code. Easier just to test these things. Okay, did I just do that? I can't quite remember because I was talking, so I'm going to do it again. Okay, so install. Let's go browse and upload and install. Okay, so everything was alright, and now what we got here is hello world name. Okay, but everything seemed to work fine. So we got com_hello world, which is good. Let's see the folder name which it made. So let's go under components. Let's download. So we'll see what it made. Okay, it made the hello world here, which is fine. Okay, so now we know that it actually potentially took the name of this and made the component it took this name here, and if we just once more, so I'm going to deinstall it once more just to show you. You might be thinking, what are we doing right now? Well, you're understanding how the whole system works, okay, which is the important thing to know. So okay, this is still on our installation copy, okay, so the one that we're going to zip up and so on. Okay, so we're gonna rename it com_hello_world_test. Okay, and then we're going to package it once again, and then compress it, and then do this and upload it once again, and we get that there. Okay, and we get com-world and so on, and we get an error because, okay, we can see up here that as far as it knows, the name of the component is com_hello_world_test. Okay, so anything which you put in this name here is the one that is going to make the folder name from. Alright, so let's come back again and let's deinstall it. Actually, prior to deinstall it, let's have another quick look at the name of the folder which it made. Okay, so Joomla 2.5, administration, components, download. Let's have a look. Okay, so it made a folder name com_hello_world_test, exactly what we wrote in there. Alright, so it's helpful for us to debug about this. Now, let's show you, if we just type in hello world test 2, and we come to here, and did we just deinstall it? No, let's deinstall it again. Okay, now we've deinstalled it. We've now changed the name to hello space world dash test dash 2. Alright, so potentially the name of the component should be, as far as I believe, hello world test 2. That's what I believe it's going to be. Okay, so let's just remove that. Let's come back to our folder and then delete this, and then upload and send it. Okay, and browse, come again, upload. Okay, now we've got this. This is not really what I'm interested in looking at, but see, that's what we got. So we got com_hello_world_test2. So it basically stripped any spaces out of it, and then it made that the component name. So let's go over to here once again. Let's check the name of the folder which it actually made, and as we can see here, it did. It made the exact representation of what I said it would make. Okay, so I think you've got the idea about what this does now. All right, I might have kicked the arse out of it a little bit, but it's just you need to know that anything you place in here, the exact text will be used to make the folder, okay, and will be the name of the component. Now, you can use a convention or a prefix of com underscore prior to the name. That will be fine, but you need to be damn certain that this name here is the exact name of this element here. Alright, and it will look for this one file. The hello world or the name of the component here needs to follow convention for the rest of the file. So when we're talking about the view class, so it said hello world view hello world, then it needs to follow the convention exactly all the time. So one of the most important parts of this extension or this XML file is this name tag. Okay, so things to take away: anything you type in here, it's gonna install the folder. Now, if the folder name is different to the actual name of the component, you're gonna get an error. Okay, so that's something important. If you want to use the language file, then the language, the name in here needs to be a full uppercase version of whatever it was in here, okay, and then followed by quotation marks and then the actual name which you want to use. Now, any name which we put in here doesn't matter, so hello world name. So we can save this. We've got this correct. This one's correct down here. So let's save this. Let's deinstall and reinstall for the absolute last time. Okay, for this one example, because we're going to do it again in a minute for something else. Okay, so let's delete this. Trust me, if you don't know that you have to deinstall something to reinstall it for the things to change, you could sit there for hours trying to research about this, okay, and trying to debug why it isn't working and what it's not doing. Okay, that's why I'm spending so much time on this, because if you don't and you try and read about it, you're going to sit there for hours trying to work it out. Okay, well, at least I did. Okay, so now we're going to go browse. Okay, upload the new version. So we now should have we should have hello world name, which we do, which is all fine, and we click on it, we get com_hello world. Alright, so that brings this part to a conclusion for you. Okay, anything you type in the name, right, is going to be the name of the folder. If you leave out the com_, alright, and just follow it with text, it's going to take that text and put it all to lowercase, remove all spaces, completely. Okay, then it's going to generate a folder with com_ and the name which you gave it. Alright, now if this name isn't exactly the same as your actual component itself, then you're going to have a whole bunch of problems. Okay, so I think we've managed to talk about this one part enough. Okay, so now this one's actually online. Okay, what we can do is, because we use the language files, okay, let's just close this bit down and this bit down, and then we can come to the actual online live version of it, come into administration, come into language, come into EN, find the component file which I need, or the language file for the component which I need, which is then the sys file, which is what I want. Change this to, this is because it's a local version at the moment, which is why it said 10. So when we actually refresh this, it then just says hello world. Don't worry about that, it's just NetBeans downloads everything first, and you always have a local copy of it. So that was just a local copy. So we change this one to test, refresh this, then as you can see we get test here. Alright, okay, so that's this one part done. What did I have on the list? Okay, next thing is adding menu items to the admin panel. Okay, now as you can see here, banners then has 4 submenu items. Now the question is, how do you do this? Now this is all done through the configuration file once again. Okay, and in here, if for example we're going to show you the way that you might go about doing it, first of all, and spending a few hours researching this and scratching your head wondering why it doesn't work. Alright, so what we're going to do is, so this is the remote copy, this is the installed copy, alright, which is underneath administration components com_hello world and the hello world.xml. Okay, just to reiterate, this is not going to work. Alright, okay, so we're going to go submenu, and then we're going to go menu, and then alt is and we're going to make one for the goodbye one. Okay, and I can't always remember the things which need to go in this, but I've got another copy of one which is what I'm going to use. Okay, sorry, I was on the right lines. We need submenu to tell this that these are submenu items. Okay, the alt is just there for good practice. Okay, what you need to do is tell it the controller which we're going to use. Now in this scenario, the goodbye one has its own controller. Okay, and then also the view is called then goodbye. Alright, now to give it a name, we're going to use the language file once again. Okay, so let's open up, that's the remote one, I believe. Yeah, it is the remote one. Yep, it is the remote one. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come in here, and my convention, which I like to use, is then we still say com_hello world, but then we'd say view, and we say goodbye menu. Okay, so we're just basically making the text say, hey, first of all, this is the component which we're doing, and we're going to say it's a view. We're going to say the view type, and then it's a menu. Okay, so okay, and all we're going to do is we're going to name this goodbye. Okay, once again, this is not going to work. All right. So why am I showing you this? Well, because you'll end up doing this. Okay, and this is the first thing which you'll try, and it won't work. All right. Okay, this is all from experience, so we're going to place that in there. Okay, all lowercase. Now we think, oh, okay, now a submenu will actually be made on there. So that was on the live copy. We could just refresh this, and nothing happens at all because it never looks at that file. Okay, it looks in the database. Okay, let's remove this test still. So we can see that it's reading off this one file. Okay, but it's not going to make the actual submenu. Okay, upon installation, it makes these menu items. Okay, it saves these menu items inside of the let's say the JOS_menu table. Okay, whatever the prefix, the JOS underscore is the prefix which Joomla gives it. Okay, so I'm just using JOS as an example. It stores a menu item inside of this one table. Now I believe the last thing, which is not the origin, there's a part in it, there's one of the come to in a minute, in one of the columns it knows whether it's administration or not administration, just basically changing it by 0 or 1 and so on. It knows that it's the administration part of it, so it actually adds the item into there. Now you don't have to give it in here, well, that's the wrong one. You don't actually have to give inside of this or declare, where was it in here? You don't have to declare any URL because it knows here that it's under the controller goodbye and the view goodbye. Alright, and it knows that it's under component or so in other words option com_hello world, then controller this, view this, and it will use the default view for anything else. It will check in the language file to load this. Okay, then it will place it in. So let's just copy this. Let's take it to our installation copy. Alright, and just place it there. So this is the XML file which we're using to always install. And then with inside of this we need to make sure we update our language file. Okay, so we're going to come into com_hello world under the admin, under the language ENGB, under the sys file. Okay, we're going to use the remote one that we had a minute ago and copy it and then update this one file here. Okay, we're then going to update this one file here. I'm just going to move this down. We're going to come back to our Joomla itself and we're going to deinstall the component. Okay, that's now gone. Okay, we're now going to come to our folder itself. We're going to delete the zip file which we had previously. I'm going to make a new zip out of it. Going to come to here and then we're going to install it, and then we're going to upload and install. We're going to do a fingers crossed and come here, and now you can see that we get the actual goodbye icon which is here. Alright, now we got hello world name was because we left the thing here as hello world name. Okay, so that's why it's still like that. Now we come onto this and we click goodbye and it takes us to the right place, so it takes us to the goodbye page. Okay, so we're all happy because it's declared up here that we're using the goodbye controller. So that bit works there. Okay, so like I said, is that if you want to do submenu items within inside of this bit here, you have to make certain that you place it in the component.xml file upon installation. All right. Now, you might be saying, well, wait a minute, I can just add an element into the JOS_menu table. Okay, yes, you can. That would be correct, but the JOS_menu table is a little bit more complicated than what you may think, because it does have an ordering system, which is a complete tutorial in itself. So I would stay away a little bit from manually playing around with that one table, although you can. And it's not. And if you do want to update it, it is a simple little looping script with a little bit of MySQL to update each column as you go along. It's not really that complicated, but I really wouldn't advise doing it. If you're going to make a component, at least work out which menu items you want first of all, and which structure you want it to be. Okay, so that's that bit done. Let me have a look at it a bit further. Okay, so now we're going to explain. Now we have the component installed with both the views. So if we click on Hello World name, it takes us to the main Hello World page. Okay, then we click on Hello World here. Okay, so what we're going to talk about next is the actual folder structure itself in Joomla. Okay, and so basically we can not worry about this anymore, and we can come to here, and we're going to talk about this folder structure, which is here. All of these others anon FTP, this is all the server itself, so we don't have to worry about that. It's just these folders here which we need to concern ourselves by. And what we can actually do is, rather than worrying about that, I can actually find the folder itself where NetBeans has actually saved it, and it's under here. I can't remember where I saved it now. One second, I'm just going to find it. Okay, so this is the actual folder structure that it takes. Okay, so basically it's then this is it here. It's a little bit easier representation to look at than using NetBeans. Okay, so let's talk about now the folder structure itself, and where things are placed, when they're placed, and how they're placed upon installation of a component. Okay, so first thing to discuss here is when we installed the component, we have the admin folder and the site folder within inside of our package. Okay, now let's just discuss the admin folder first of all. The admin folder is going to be first of all it's going to find the name of the component, and it's going to check the tables, the extension table, and so on, to see whether that name exists already. It's then also going to check within inside of the administration and components folder to see whether the corresponding folder already exists. Now if it does exist, it's going to throw an exception, and it's not going to go any further, alright, because it can't write to that, it can't make this folder because someone else has already used this name already. If it doesn't exist, then it will go ahead and make this folder. Okay, so then what it will do is it will take all of the content. Well, it will read the hello world.xml file, and it will say, hey, which files and folders do I need to copy? So then it checks every file name, and it says, okay, I find the file name in the zip file, I'm going to copy it to this one location here. And once again, I believe it actually saves it in a temp folder first of all before it actually copies it over, but let's just say that it skips that part for now. So it then copies all of the files and folders into here. Okay, it then it then looks at the site, okay, and it says, well, I'm going to copy all of these folders within inside of our site folder. Now the site folder doesn't actually have on the remote server a site folder itself, but when you go to the document root, you see the components folder, and this is basically where the site part of it. Come under here, it will do the test once again. It will see whether the com_hello world folder already exists. If it doesn't, it will create that folder. It will then copy all files and folders which were in the com_hello world package and copy them over here. Okay, so that's now the files distributed. Now, with inside of our XML file that we had, let's come back over here and have a look. We also told it that there's language files. Okay, there's a language file for site, then there's language files for the administration as well. So what it does then is it knows, well, wait a minute, there's a language file inside of our package which is here. It recognizes the tag, the en-gb tag, and what it then does is it says, well, wait a minute, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the site language folder, which is here. I know this en-gb, going to go into here, and I'm going to copy that that file from the installation package into here, and this is the one I'm going to use first. Okay, so every single time it loads a component, it's going to load the language file if it exists first. All right. Then, if you want to add any additional settings with inside of the actual language file inside of the component, then you can do that as well. But then you have to explicitly tell it to load that one file. Therefore, once the component has been installed with inside of your component, so let's go to the component, then com_hello world, and then we see language and en-gb, and we see it's here. Okay, it pretty much will never load this one file. It'll always load the language file which is in the main site language folder under the corresponding language code. Okay, so really this one is just here for temporary measures, just in case it gets deleted. You can then copy it back over, but you can also load it using the JFactory get language, and then you can load the language file itself. But that's another different topic. Okay, so whenever you're talking about either the site or the administrator language files, then if it's for the site, you're always going to the main document root and in the language folder. And if it's for the administration pages, then you're talking about the language folder inside of the administrator folder itself. Okay. Okay, so that's the language file. Now, as you can see with inside of here, in the administration under here, you can see all the different prefixes. You see com_, and then we go down a bit further, we can see mod_, and then we see plg_, and then we keep going a little bit further, we see tpl_. That's basically, this is a language file for templates, so they have the prefix of tpl_, and then the plugins have one for a plugin which is plg_, module itself then is mod_, and then component is com_. So you can always differentiate between the different language files by looking at the prefix as well. Okay, this is the same in the URL as well. The option equals com_. You always know whether it's a component, a module, or a plugin, and so on. Okay, so that's then the language file itself and how the files and folders are distributed. Okay, once it has finished installing the components, what it will do is it will take your hello world.xml file and it will store it for safekeeping inside of the administrator, components, your component folder, and it will store it here. Okay, you really can ignore this file afterwards because it's not going to do anything with it. Because it's pretty much saved all this data in the database anyway. I mean, it might use it for the sake of the author and so on. This is something which we'd have to test, but otherwise it just sits there. Okay, so really the language folder underneath your component, you don't need to worry about. Okay, and if you want to add any additional languages later to your pre-installed component, then you would need to then add the relevant language file to the language folder itself. So just as an example, sorry about that, my phone just rang and I'm just had to pause the video for a second. Okay, so we're talking about language files, and if you wanted to make then an additional, if you then had installed an additional language file for the whole Joomla framework itself, then for example you would have like let's say German DE folder here as well. Then all you would do then would be to copy your German language file into this folder, and then it would recognize this folder once again. It would cause a few problems if you didn't do this, and you started making pages that are in a different language. I would advise making certain that you make the relevant language files and support those language files. Okay, if it doesn't, then your component itself is either going to display lots of bad messages. Anyway, it's just something to really consider before making a component. If you're able to make it in a different language and you want to support a different language, then you need to make sure you have the language files that are compatible with that one language. Okay. Okay, so that's that bit. Let's have a look. Yep, on the top. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is under here. Okay, so let's see this. Let's get this correct again. So we can just save this. Okay, now we can see here that we've got hello world name, okay, here, and then farewell page. Now let's just discuss how this actually loads this information, shall we? So let's come back over to NetBeans and let's find the relevant files, shall we? Okay, so we can do this from the beginning. Alright, so what do we need to look at? We need to think about this. Alright, so first of all, let's put this in the middle. First of all, this menu items is loading the farewell page. Now we know that hello world name is displaying here. We know up here it displays hello world name as well. Now we worked out that this is coming from the language file, okay, the administration language file. So let's go to administration, let's go to language, let's go to ENGB, and then let's find the hello world sys file. Okay, now that's over here. Okay, so we can see that it just says hello world at the moment, so something's a bit different there. Okay, but actually this one needs to be downloaded again, so let's just download this one. Okay, we can just do this and save this and refresh this. Okay, there we go. Alright, so it's just this NetBeans local copy, remote copy. They don't seem to update themselves too well. So okay, now you can see that the sys file governs this one bit here. Now the question which you may ask is, well, how does the farewell page part get worked out from there? Well, it's actually quite simple, really. So what it does is it looks underneath the view, because the actual page itself, when we look in here, it has the URL, the link, and it knows, right, well, I'm of type com_hello world, and it's the view of goodbye and the layout of farewell. So that has enough information to know where it's searching to find the actual title for this. So we know that we've got com, hello world, view, goodbye, layout, farewell. So all it does is it does a simple navigation through the elements. It goes, right, it's a component because the prefix com_ says it's a component. It goes, well, I'm looking for com_hello world. Do I find the folder? Yes, I do. Okay, I'm going to go to the views because that's where the views are placed, and it says view is goodbye. Is there a goodbye folder? Yes, there is. So it opens that up and it goes into there, and it opens up the metadata.xml, and it looks in there and it goes, yep, okay, I know that this is of type view, okay, and then it finds this one file here. It goes, well, wait a minute, layout, is there a layout as well? And it looks in the TMPL or the template folder, okay, to see whether there is a farewell, a corresponding XML file to what the layout says in the URL. Now it says, well, wait a minute, it was layout equals farewell. I found a farewell.xml file. So it'll then go into this, it will check to see whether it finds the metadata root element of the XML document. It will then check to see whether it finds the layout element, and it will then check to see whether it has an attribute of title. If it does have an attribute of title, it will change this to whatever's written in here. So let's just change this to found. Okay, come back to here, close this down, and as we can see here, farewell page found. Alright, now yeah, that's pretty much about it. Now, how can we make it not find it? Alright, so let's see which part it goes from here. Now, there's no point us changing the goodbye folder name because that seems a little bit crazy. But what we're going to do is we're going to rename this metadata folder just to underscore metadata. Alright, and now see what it does. Okay, and refresh it. Okay, now you can see that it doesn't find the file. So it says com underscore hello world underscore goodbye underscore view underscore default underscore title. Now this is actually within inside of this page here. So when it goes to com menus and view items and loads the default page, if it doesn't find the metadata file, it will automatically just revert to this by default. Okay, it won't go any further. Otherwise it then loads, I believe it was, if it goes to that, it will then load other language files, I think it was. I can't quite remember. I checked out the code one day, but it's the metadata file that is of relevance. Okay, if it doesn't find this metadata file, then it will skip to another option of being able to do this. So you do need the metadata .xml file within inside of your view for it to go any further. Now obviously in the metadata that's a view, to it's to say, it's just saying, hey, I am a view, and yes, please go ahead and search for the additional layout ones. Now what happens if we then change the farewell.xml file, which is the next one which it's searching for, to then underscore farewell, and now refresh this. Okay, we then just get hello world, and it doesn't print out any layout, so it obviously doesn't find that one file. Alright, well that's no good, is it? So let's just change this back and then just refresh this. Okay, so now we're back there. Let's change that, get rid of that found again and put that there. Okay, so let's say for example that you want to be able to govern all of this information through a language file. What can we do? Well, okay, let's open this up, and what we're going to do is go to, I believe this one is the actual language file itself. So we're going to go to administration, language, ENGB, and then find the actual hello world ini itself. Okay, and we're going to name this one com hello world view goodbye layout farewell underscore name. Yeah, I know it's a long name, but it needs to be have some form of kind of structure so we can understand it later. So let's place that in there, and then you just take this out, okay, and place it in here instead. Okay, and let's save that and save this, and I can't quite remember whether it's this language file or not. Okay, so it's not this language file. We're on the administration one at the moment, so is it then on the system one still as well then? I can never remember which one. There's so many language files which we need to think about. So let's copy this to see whether it's there. Save this, refresh this. Okay, so there we see that the sys file governs this one as well. Okay, so within inside of your farewell.xml or your layout, let's say .xml metadata file, you need to basically, if you want to use a language file, then you need to use the administration component language, or sorry, the administration language code, and then the component sys language file, and place it in there. It's all a little bit back to front. Sometimes the site one corresponds to the administration one, which then corresponds to another one. You really just have to test these. Okay, but the best way of doing it is that if it doesn't work, then change it to another language file. Okay, either the site or then to the administration. But never really worry about your language files that are installed in the actual component itself. I mean, with inside of the actual component directory. And when I say that, so I don't make any confusion anywhere. So administration, component directory, hello world directory, language directory, state language code directory in here. So really these ones don't really matter that much. It's the ones with inside of the language folder itself, be it on the admin or on the site part. Okay, so that's that bit done there. Okay, so you can pretty much do that with the message as well, and place another. So let's just come into here, and it was the sys bit. So let's copy this and do there, and let's just change this to message. Okay, and the message was a farewell page, and change that to a farewell page. And that's now wanting to have this, so we'll then change this to this. Okay, then come over to here, refresh it. Okay, and then we hover over it, and we should get, no, okay, we did get a message before. Oh, it did come. There we go, a farewell page. So when you hover over it, we get the title part of the actual text. And if we inspect it with Firebug, we can see that we get span title a farewell page. So there's nothing new there. It's just using the title tag of the element itself to display the title. All right. So that's that little bit done there. Okay. Right. Next, we're going to talk about JText. Okay, JText. This is an element. If we come to our site, so now we have the component installed, all right, and we want to modify our farewell page, all right. So we're going to come to components for the site, and then to our component folder, our views folder, the goodbye folder, because the template was farewell, and we're going to go to our farewell.php. Okay, why are we there? Because in the front end, okay, we then have this, and let's just do this and update this. Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, I just had this NetBeans local remote copy thing because I was testing something prior to doing the tutorial. Okay, so let's remove Firebug. And let's come to here once again. Now, so this is the page which we have at the moment. So we can remove all these exclamation marks and come to here, and we see they're all removed. Okay. Now, what we want to do is we want to read the component file, all right, or the component language file, all right. Now, the way that we can do this is basically by using, well, we know that the actual file itself has been loaded, all right, because every time it loads a component, it also loads the corresponding language file as well. Okay, now the language files is, how do we know how to access the actual value of it? Okay, well, Joomla provides you with a JText static class. Okay, now the only one which you really need to worry about for the time being is the underscore method. Okay, so you just use the JText : underscore and then open and close brackets in here, and any value within inside of your language file. Now when I say language file, I mean within inside of the language file, not the sys language file, and I also mean the site language file. Okay, so we need to come into the site language folder, en, and then to com hello world ini. Okay, so we're going to make a test one here. We're going to say com hello world and test me, and it's going to be equal to hi there all, this is a test. Okay, we'll save that, and let's copy this. Alright, let's budge this out of the way. Oh no, we want this, sorry, get confused. Let's paste this in here. Okay, and just for sake and purposes, let's have a look what happens. Nothing, obviously, I wouldn't expect it otherwise. Didn't save it, that's why. Okay, and you see there, hi there all, this is a test. Okay, so what JText does, JText takes this name which you place in it, okay, and it checks the language file to see whether there's a corresponding text in there, okay, which matches it, and if it does, then it displays that instead. JText does a lot more other things as well, therefore I would just advise you to read about it. But let's say, for example, that you had more than, let's say you had a multi-language component, okay, that then did English, German, Portuguese, French, Italian, Spanish, and so on, okay. And on your one page, it wanted to say good morning to my website, okay. And obviously in English, it would say good morning to my website. And then in French it would say bonjour, and then in Italian it would say buongiorno, and so on, and with all the other languages. Now you don't want to have to make multiple pages to say the same thing. Therefore what you do is you make a language file that corresponds to that language code itself, which the website is using at that time. Now Joomla can also recognize the language code which the browser's using and set this to the default language, okay, if you tell it to, which means then all pages will load the default language file of what the browser's told it to load. But you can override that by telling Joomla which page language you want to display, or which language for that one page you want to use. Okay, so it's, if you leave it at all, then it will basically decide for you which language you're going to load. If there's only one language available, then it will use just one language. Okay, but I'm going to do a tutorial just on JText itself, because there's a little bit more to it than that, than just this. But basically, my advice would be to take the time out to store all of your reusable text inside of a language file itself, and then use the JText instead, because it makes much more sense if you want to modify the whole website. Let's say you've got a company name on your website and it's called Acme or whatever, and you've written the word Acme 1,000 times throughout the whole website, and then suddenly someone says, well, wait a minute, I'm going to change the name of my company from Acme to Acme Ltd now. Therefore now you've got to go over the whole website and change Acme to Acme Ltd. Whereas if you use a language file, okay, all you would have to do then would change the Acme language code as such. So we'd say, for example, inside of our language file, we said, you know, com Acme company name equals then Acme. Alright, and throughout the whole website we used the JText and used this for the whole of it, and there was like 1,000 instances of this name throughout the whole website. Now if we wanted to update all 1,000 instances in one go, then we would just change the name straight away and we'd know the whole website's been updated. Whereas if you didn't use it and you just used plain text, then you would have to go and search through everywhere. Now this is perfect for the likes of telephone numbers, email addresses and so on. For generic stuff which is used everywhere on the website, this language file is worth using as well. Then it comes into it with constants as well, which you could use, but just for textual information, this is the winner, I believe. If I'm wrong, please let me know. If there's a better way of doing it than this, please let me know. I'm very interested in knowing. Okay, I was going to talk about predefined constants, but I'm going to skip that for the next tutorial because we're on an hour already, and I don't really want to go over like an hour. Okay, I hope you've learnt something out of this. There's a lot more to it than this. Okay, there's a lot more things. We haven't really even touched the logic behind the models and the views and so on. We've just been touching actually how the component is laid out and how the files are used and when they're loaded. There's a lot more to talk about than just this. If you're interested to learn even more, okay, there is going to be another one coming, and I believe I decided what the next one was okay, to give you a little bit of a teaser to the next one. Okay, if we come onto here, okay, come on to our menu items. Alright, so now let's say for example we've decided that we want okay, let's just do it. We want menu item type, and we go, oh, the farewell page, yeah, we love that page, it's brilliant, really fantastic to use, it's so dynamic and versatile. Okay, so now over the right hand side here we have a whole bunch of options which we can use. Now these are Joomla specific options. Okay, now what about if we say, well, I want to add some of these as well, you know, I want a piece of that, so we can do that. Let's just close all these down, let's just shut all these down here. Okay, so what we want to do is we need to come to these the XML files once again for the layouts. Alright, so we need to come to hello world under the site we're talking about now, because all the metadata files are under the site. Come under view and under goodbye, template, and then farewell.xml. Okay, so this is where we're going. Now, with inside of here, we now basically want to make another element called fields, and name equals params. Okay, and then we're going to go field name, and then we're going to say basic test. Okay, so this is now, if we save this and fingers crossed and reload this, we don't get anything yet because sorry, forgot something. We need field sets name equals basic. Well, no, that needs to be then basic test, and then I believe it's label. Let's just change that, place that in there, field set, and we still need, that's why. No, that's wrong there. It needs to go like that. Give me a second. So I've completely confused myself here. Yeah, so I was actually correct. I'm just confusing myself. That's the trouble. Okay, so we need to remove that. Okay, so you need to have one tag of fields. Remember, this is XML, so it needs to be really strict on how you type your XML out. Okay, and the name equals parameters for the fields. This is really important because the parameters is actually a column with inside of the JOS underscore menu table. Okay, just once again, the JOS underscore is the prefix example which we're using here. Okay, so it's actual column, and it stores JSON JavaScript object notation text within inside of that one column cell, or the row. Okay, the cell of that one row. Okay, it saves all of this data in there. Now the field set is the thing that's actually going to give it the wrapper for it and the name, and we can then just do label, then it equals basic test. Okay, now field names work a lot like input type. Okay, the input tag in HTML. So we give it a name, and then we give it the type. Okay, and it's text. Okay, and we just say then the value. Value is then test as well. All right, let's just save this. Come back over to here. Refresh this. Okay, and as you can see now, we get then basic test, and then we said that let's just move this out. Okay, we said that the field name was basic test, type text, and then value test. Okay, and then the field set itself. All right. The important note to know here is the actual name of it itself. Now, as you can see here, we called it basic test. Okay, which is really a bad name actually to call it, because basic test needs to really have like no spaces, isn't it, if you're going to use a name. Okay, so name basic test. So let's refresh this, just do it properly. When we look at this, you can see that you get name equals jform, so it's basically making an array, a parameters array, and then the element within inside of that is then basic test. Okay, so we can talk about the JRequest static function or static class, which is available through Joomla later, which is how you can retrieve these and so on. But this is something which you can do at a later stage. Now if we type in David and save this one file, save this one page, you can see there it's saved. Now this is accessible via your component as well, so when someone makes a menu item, they can actually store data with inside of here, and that will then send it to then the actual component itself and the layout, and then you can start using that in order to maybe display the page a little bit different and so on. You can use SQL in here as well, and list and options and a whole bunch of other things. This is a complete tutorial by itself. Okay, so that is your look forward to. Okay, and we're going to end this tutorial right here on that note. Okay, it's been a pleasure talking about this. I'm sorry if it sounded a little bit confusing at times, but building components and plugins and so on is not a simple task. Okay, there are a lot of things which you need to learn, a lot of rules, a lot of folders, and a lot of this, that, and the other, and how things work. All right, you really only get to learn how to do it by practice. Okay, and debugging all the time, and having some patience as well always helps. Okay, so that's it for me right now, for today at least. Yeah, if you've got any questions, please do not hesitate to drop me a line through YouTube or Facebook. It's facebook.com/thorndesign. And if you've got any feedback on this, please let me know. All right, and I'll be happy to answer them if I have time. Okay. Yeah, so all of the Joomla videos at the moment are underneath the featured playlist, Joomla 2.5 tutorials, and so on. This is the second part then of the other one which I made, which was then the one which you was watching before, more than likely. So then the custom components, creating, installing, explaining, and so on. So there will be another part to this one, which is more specific about then the fields and the actual menu items itself and the configuration parts of it. So yeah, that's it. My name's David Dawn. It's been a pleasure. Have a nice day, evening, and so on. And goodbye.